Okay, welcome. And we're going to talk about how to count rhythms. So if you look here on the screen, this note shape right here, what rhythm means is it tells us how long or how short we're going to hold a note. So this first note here is the longest note that we're going to be able to hold. And when I say hold a note out, let me give you an example using an instrument. So this is a cello. And when I play a whole note, it's going to hold for 4 beats. So in your elementary school music class, your teacher may have said to do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, showing that holding your hands together keeps that note going. Now on our instruments, now what some people start off thinking is that, oh, okay, well, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to play 4 notes. What a whole note means to do is to hold that note for 4 beats, or you can think of a beat kind of like 1 second. So you can think about holding that note for 4 seconds. So here we go. I'm going to play a whole note. And what you can do is you can clap your hand and hold your hand and move your hand like this, keeping them together to show me you're holding a note for 4 beats. Okay? Let me demonstrate, and then we can do it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. See, that was one note that held out for 4 beats. Now, you clap and hold your hands together and count to 4 with me as I play. Okay, I'm going to count you in. I'm going to give you 4 beats, and then I'm going to play the note, and you're going to clap your hands and hold and count the note. Ready? 1, 2, 3, let's play. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, you just played a whole note. Good job. Now, we also have this thing called a rest. A rest is different from a note in that it means to not make any sound. It is silence, like this. But we do count how long those silences are. And in this case, this picture you see here, which looks like a hat upside down, is a whole rest. So you would count, or you'd count in your head without making any sound. You see here in measure 2, we have a whole rest. So I'm going to play measure 1, and then I'm going to play measure 2 on my instrument, and you can count with me on measure 1 and hold your hands together and hold that note for 4 beats. And then on measure 2, you can okay, here we go. Let's do measure 1 and measure 2 together. I'll give you 4 beats, and then we'll start counting. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it? All right, well, let's move on. And I'm now looking at measure 3, and right over here I have half notes. So this one, it looks kind of like a golf club, but it's empty in the middle. Well, that half note is kind of hungry. It needs to be filled up. Compared to the quarter note, it's filled in the middle. And the quarter note's a little shorter, but the half note needs a little more time. So the half note holds for 2 beats, and then its partner, the half rest, which looks like a hat, it's not upside down, holds silence for 2 beats. So if we were to count one half note, we'd say 1, 2. If we were to count 2 half notes, now when I'm counting these numbers, I'm counting 4 beats in each measure. And that's because this 4, 4 that you see over here, it looks like a fraction. But what this is telling us is that there are 4 beats in each measure. So from one point to this next line, this is measure 1. And then we have a bar line that separates these 2 measures, and then we start measure 2, and we start counting again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then here's another bar line, and you see they wrote 3, and this is measure 3. And here on measure 3, we have a half note that holds for 2 beats. So 1. And then this next one is another half note, and it starts on beat 3, and it's going to also hold for 2 beats. Okay, good deal. Just didn't want to miss anything that you may have asked. So I'm going to count measure 3, and here's how I want you to count it. So when we're counting measure 3, we're going to count the 1, and we're just going to hold that note out. 1. Now you felt the 2 beats, but when I said 1, my voice was singing 1 note and was holding that note for 2 beats. And then on beat, the next note, that happens to come on beat 3. So we would say 3. Let's go back to measure 1. And when you get on measure 1 this time, what I want you to do is, this is going to be showing you where the beats are. But instead of counting all 4 beats, what I want you to do is hold that 1 since it started on beat 1. Let me demonstrate measure 1, 2, and 3 for you, and then we'll do it together, and then we'll do it on the instrument. So here's measure 1. Here's how I want you to count it. Guys, pay attention. 1. Shh, 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 shh. 1, 3. Let's see if we can do that together. So we're going to count measures 1, 2, and 3. Clapping our hands to show when we're playing a note, holding them together to show that we're holding the note, and the number that we're counting is the beat upon which the note came upon. So let's start on measure 1. We're going to go 2, measure 2, and measure 3. Ready? 2, 3, go. 1. Shh, 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 shh. 1, 3. This time, I'm going to play on the instrument while you clap your hands and hold the note and count and do all the stuff we just practiced twice. Okay, here we go. Get ready. I'm going to give you 4 beats. And, try a different string this time. Okay, here's measure 1. 1, 2, ready, go. 1. Shh, 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 shh. 1, 3. Now, if we look at measure 4, we see a half note or a whole note. Don't worry, you don't have to type it in the chat, but let's look right over here and find our answer. So a half note looks like a hat on a head, and the whole note looks like an upside down hat. So measure 4 is a half rest. So that's 2 beats of shh, shh, 2 beats of silence, followed by a half note, which falls on beat 3. Because the first half rest took up the time for beat 1 and beat 2, and then the half note made a sound that held for beat 3 and beat 4, and we would say shh, shh, 3. Let's look at measure 5, and we can learn quarter notes as well. So down here we see measure 5, and here we can identify that as a quarter rest. Looks like a lightning bolt, doesn't it? The quarter rest holds for 1 beat. Your music teacher may have taught you for a quarter note to say ta, and maybe for a half note ta, and for a whole note to say ta. We are going to learn how to count using numbers for now so that we can already start you off the right way on counting. So measure 5, remember we have 4 beats in each measure, and it's almost easier to see those 4 beats now because there are 4 symbols. Each one of these equals 1 beat, and remember we have 4 beats in each measure because of our time signature. So, can you count measure 5 on your own? Here's what I want you to do. If you can, use shh for left your chat. Oh no, where'd you go? There you are. Okay, use shh. Type that in for a rest. and then use numbers to show me what beat this note and this note would be. Okay, so let's do it together. In fact, how about Abby? What would we say for the first symbol in measure 5? Would we say a beat number or would we say a shh? Would you type that in the chat there? That's right. Okay, Zaniah Gregory, what would we say for the second note? Right, good, you were on top of it. All right, Zaniah Cherry, what would we say for the third note? Would we say a number or would we say a shh? And what number would we say if we say a number? Okay, now you said 1. Keep in mind that beat 1 happened right here. Even though we said shh, we still count that as beat 1. So this would have been 2, right? You're right, 3, you got it. Okay, and so we all probably know that we would say 4 for the last note in measure 5. So the answer would be 3, 4 is how we would put it. Sorry, that period just came in out of the blue. That period, that little dot next to 3 doesn't mean anything, okay? So for measure 5, we'd say 3, 4. Good job. I think you're getting it. Excellent. Okay, so measure 6, we would, first note falls on beat 1, but since it's 2 beats long, we'd say 1. And then in this note, we would say, and on this next note in measure 6, we would say 3. And for the last note in measure 6, it's on beat 4. We can clap our hands and make a sound for beat 4. So measure 6, let's try it together. I'll count you in 4 beats and let's see if you can do it with me. Ready? Measure 6. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 3, 4. Hey, you did it. Now measure 7 looks a little bit trickier. So for measure 7, we would, let me try and type it out here and see if this makes sense. So for measure 7, we have 1, 2, 4. Because the half note now is on a different place. It's on 2, and it takes up, since it's 2 beats, it takes up the time for beat 2 and for beat 3. So that's why we say 2. Hold the hands together. And measure 8, well, let's leave measure 8 and see if we can play measure 8 when we get to it. So we're going to start at measure 5, and we're going to go measure 5, 6, 7, and 8 without stopping. And you clap your hands and hold and count. And I tell you, if you are even doing a little bit good at this, this is a great start, okay? So here we go, measure 5. 1, 2, 3, go. Shh, shh. 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I hope that made sense to you. Next week, what I'll do is I'll post this video and I'll post the material that we've got right here, the note chart, and then the rhythm chart that we have. In fact, let me simplify. Here we go. There's 24 measures of it. So I'll post that photograph of just those 24 measures of the notes that we probably couldn't figure out on our own. And I'll give you this resource of the note chart. And then you'll have the video that we just made so that you can be able to practice counting notes on your own. And when you receive your instrument, then you can, let me go ahead and show you a little bit about playing your instrument. So for violas, when you first get your instrument, and you'll have a red book too, and we'll go through that, but you're going to hold it, we're going to start by holding it guitar style, which is holding it with our arm here, and violas and violins both make this V shape with their hand. And then you place that V shape underneath fingerboard. But what you want to be able to do, let's see if I can show this to you. You want to leave what we call a mouse hole right in here at the bottom. So you don't want this instrument to go all the way down into the bottom of your V. You want a little bit of space. So if I had a little mouse, he'd come through here and say, "Oh, can you see him? There's my mouse. Give me some cheese." That is to say that you don't want your hand to go all the way to and touch behind. So we hold the V shape, leaving a mouse hole, and we hold it guitar style. Violins and violas. You'll put your thumb on top, fingerboard, and we can use our finger to pluck the strings like this. Let me show you again, and then Abby, I'll show you cello. So violins and violas, make a V shape with your left hand. See the V? Place that V behind the fingerboard so that there's a little space down below the neck and your V. Hold it like this. Put your thumb up here and use your index finger to pluck. And now I'm going to play measure 1, measure 2. 1, shh, 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 shh. For cello, you hold your instrument differently. You have a cello player. So let's go ahead and talk about what cellos do. Cellos, instead of making the V shape like violins do, cellos make this C shape. Let's see if I can show you this angle. Now the C shape, separate your fingers. You've got the thumb back, fingers right here. C shape. Let's see, there's maybe the C. It's hard to show you on a camera, but you get the idea. Thumb goes behind. Fingers hold like this. And that's how we hold the cello with a C shape. And with the cello, you want to leave space between this part of your hand and this part, fingerboard. So, cellos and basses make a C shape. Violins and violas, V shape with their instruments. We will talk about that more in depth once we have instruments in our hands. But I feel like you should be able to at least play measures 1 through 8 using your clapping rhythm and counting. Let's go ahead and try measure 9 and measure 10 together. Remember, each one gets a beat, and the quarter rests get a shh. Okay, go ahead and practice measure 9 and measure 10. I'll give you about 10 seconds. Now let's see if we can play measure 9 and measure 10 together. So get your hands ready. I'll count you in and I'll give you 4 beats. Okay? 1, 2, play measure 9. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Let's try measure 11 and 12. Don't practice, but I'm going to slow it down so we can think about it. And this, if you didn't practice it yet, then this would be doing something in music that we call sight reading, where you just try and read it without ever having looked at it before. Let's try and sight read measure 11, 12, 13, and 14, and we're going to do it slow. Okay, hands up. I'll count you in. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 2,